Hello to everyone at the McGovern Day dinner. I think you know I'd much rather be there with you again in person. I love being your keynote speaker just a few years ago, but there's a few things going on right now, and as your senator next door, I'm honored to join you via video. You know, when I think of Senator McGovern, I also think of some other great South Dakota leaders that you sent to Washington, including my former colleague, Senator Tim Johnson. Such a hero and such a great guy to work with, as well as Senator Tom Daschle, who not only was a leader in South Dakota, but for our nation, as well as so many South Dakota Democrats who have been courageous voices. As a veteran who conquered his fear of flying to defend his country during World War II, Senator McGovern dedicated his life to serving the nation he loved. He fought tirelessly for those in need and understood the importance of bringing new perspectives into the seats of power. And by the way, I am a beneficiary of that, as in all the women senators, because we didn't have a lot of women's voices in Congress until George McGovern came along. His work to reform the Democratic Convention process laid the groundwork for a new generation of women and people of color to take leadership roles in our party and in elected office. As the first woman senator to be elected from our state, I'd like to say thank you, South Dakota, for giving us George McGovern. So tonight, we all honor his legacy and his work to serve, organize, and train the next generation. Now, alongside Senator McGovern stood two other political giants of their generation who just happened to be from my home state, my mentor and friend Walter Mondale, and our own happy warrior Hubert Humphrey, of course, a South Dakota native. You know, when Vice President Mondale lost his bid for the presidency, he called George McGovern and said, "Tell me how long it takes to get over a defeat of this kind." And McGovern said, "I'll call you when it happens." It was his sense of humor, as well as his tireless advocacy for those in need, that Walter Mondale remembered the most about his friend. A national leader, George McGovern was our Midwestern voice for decency, fairness, and tolerance, one that I work to carry on every day. You know, as I launched my presidential campaign on the banks of the Mississippi in February, maybe you noticed that snowstorm and the snow on my hair. By the way, there's nothing better than watching the video later and watching yourself grow old in 20 minutes. I was joined there by thousands of friends and supporters, some on sleds and cross-country skis, some with friends in South Dakota, and even South Dakotans themselves. It was all people who came together to that island in the middle of the Mississippi to say that they're tired of the current state of politics. My message to them was simple. We must cross the river of our divides and come together to cross that sturdy bridge of our democracy to a higher plane in our politics. You all know my background. My grandpa worked 1,500 feet underground in the mines. He never graduated from high school. He saved money in a coffee can in the basement to send my dad to college. My dad got a 2-year degree and then graduated from the University of Minnesota and worked his whole life as a newspaperman. My mom grew up in Milwaukee, the site of our next national convention, and got her teaching degree. She moved to Minnesota because they had a strong teachers union, and she taught 2nd grade until she was 70 years old. I still meet people who say she was their favorite teacher. So I stand before you today as the daughter of a newspaperman and the teacher, as the granddaughter of an iron ore miner, as the first woman elected to the United States Senate from the state of Minnesota, and a candidate for President of the United States. That is because we believe in this country in shared dreams. I believe that everyone should have the same opportunities that my family had. But you know right now there are too many Americans and too many South Dakotans who don't have an honest opportunity to get ahead, including so many in rural communities. We need to get things done for rural America. When I got to the Senate, my first ask was to be on the Ag Committee, and now I'm one of the senior members there. And as your president, I'll continue to fight for our farmers and ranchers and bridge that rural and urban divide. It's damaging for our country, it's damaging for our economy, and it's damaging for our spirit as Americans. This isn't just about agriculture, you know that. It's about rural housing and healthcare. It's about investing in critical infrastructure projects like the Lewis and Clark Water Project that we've worked together on across the border. It means delivering reliable, clean water to everyone in our region. It's about ending the digital divide. How are we going to bridge that rural-urban divide if we can't even email someone? That's why, as president, I pledged to connect every household to the internet by 2022. Hey, if they can do it in Iceland, we can do it in South Dakota. I am uniquely focused on keeping rural healthcare available and strong, including our critical access hospitals and emergency services in small towns, to make sure our students and workers have the skills they need to fill good jobs and invest in rural infrastructure and rural schools. That's why my first major policy proposal was aimed at infrastructure, and that will be good for South Dakota. Democrats, we can do all of this and more, as long as we focus on bread and butter issues and don't go down every rabbit hole with Donald Trump. I'll close with the words of Senator McGovern. When he said this, he was speaking about why he was running for president. He said, "I believe deeply in the American promise and can no longer accept the diminishing of that promise." Democrats, let us recommit to strengthen the American promise in South Dakota and across our country. We need your voices in this fight for justice, opportunity, and equality. Let's get to work. I'd love your support. Thank you.